Okay.
Okay, you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think there was a delay. I'm using kind of a low connection. I'm using a wireless connection, and it's kind of I'm in a kind of a bad area, so it might not be getting the best reception. So how's it going, Steve? I don't know if you want me to refer to you by your last name. I am recording. I'm just letting you know. Unless you want me to turn off the recorder, I can do that too.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. I won't mention this. The name you gave me is your last name, I'm certain, but I'm not going to say it. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
No
Well,
worries.
Steve, first of all, the reason why we're talking, first of all, today's date is December 22nd, 2012, and it's 7:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's probably 4:49 p.m. your time here on Pacific Coast. I posted I emailed Winston Wu at happyerabroad.com, and I told him that I had my website up. It's only one page right now, but basically, I guess what's going on is I'm going to start doing the Roller Steve Show interviews, and that's what I'm looking at. So, anyways, that's kind of on the agenda right now. Hold on, I got to.
Sure.
All right, talk while I just pause this other phone.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I can relate to what you guys have been saying, what Winston has been saying on Happier Abroad. There's a huge awakening happening with single guys in America, and many people haven't connected the dots. So you guys certainly have, and I've connected my own dots, which validate the problem in the dating scene for American men.
Right,
and
right.
The good news is there's a solution, just like you've been saying overseas. And did I ever get to experience that 2 months ago? But I had been corresponding with somebody overseas the year before, and that was also an awakening. But the experience 2 months ago is something I think your listeners are going to want to hear about.
All right, so I'm sorry, I went ahead to get another landline. You stated that you went overseas. I know you, in the email you sent me, you said your dad's living over there now. Is that correct?
Yeah, he has been half the time for the last 5 years.
Right.
So he's been living in Southern California and in Thailand, back and forth, 6 months, there, and 6 months in Southern Cal.
And you don't want to know something, just to make the audience aware, that's a doable thing, because let's say, for instance, you're single and you live by yourself and you rent a room and you pay $200 a month, let's say. Well, you could save up enough money every 6 months to basically just say sayonara, see you later to the U.S.
Absolutely, it's very doable, and he's got a studio. I think he's paying $150 over there for. So he now has a girlfriend who's a real gem that stands out from among the many that he had dated prior to getting serious with her. But one of the differences, of course, is that she knows he's a man, and from her point of view, men will be men. So as long as he doesn't bring a girl back to their place, she doesn't, she's pretty much endorsed him, playing around. And of course, that's something an American woman would never tolerate. But, it's quite a difference among the many that I think we'll get into.
Right, and my question is, you've been following Winston for a while. I think he's one of the most brilliant philosophers out there. I haven't, I mean, not just on the issue of the whole international dating, but the guy is just like, he's not he sees the government and all these things going on for the bullshit that it really is.
Yeah, and I agree with him. I've seen it, as well. And there's more and more, thank goodness, people that are using their common sense and thinking out of the box and not caring what the sheep will think about, their view. What matters is the truth. And I think we need more men among us to spread the truth, not be so afraid of it.
You're right. I totally agree. It's good that, I'm just, this email I sent has already gotten me like 3 responses already, or 2 at least, you and another guy, and I imagine I'll get more. But my goal with this site, of course, is to back in 2009, or like maybe in the spring, I started doing these Roller Steve Show interviews, and then I kind of gave up for a while. But then I got acquainted with Winston Wu, and then I went over to the Philippines, and that was interesting. But I didn't get to go there long enough, and men need to understand international dating. But I did want to point something out. Somebody emailed me and asked me, well, what's your show going to be about? I'm going to cover several subjects. If you're MGTOW, MGTOW going your own way, I'm just as comfortable talking because there's all kinds of political crap that go along with just being a man in America. By the way, what drew you to this conclusion? Do you think it's the looks issue? I mean, why don't you get women in your life in this country?
Or is the overseas dating conclusion, or because the government, that's a whole other topic. I mean,
yes, right. Well, I'm not talking about the government. I'm just mentioning Winston talks about that. But like in your situation, why are you one of these guys that realizes that there's like if you go on plentyoffish.com or POF.com, you respond to
I connected those dots. Absolutely. I was married 14 years. Okay, I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. This is relevant, I think, depending on if you factor in my age or not. Probably a 7.25, 7.5. Okay. The problem though with online dating, long story short, okay, from my point of view, what I discovered, I was separated 4 years ago. So being single again at age 43 now, I was just about 40 when I was separated. I went on and noticed what was happening in online dating, and that is that very few people get any response. And the reason for that is that the guys think online dating is a vehicle to become a player. So they bombard the gals get bombarded. You take an average or better gal that maybe had been on a dry spell herself, hadn't been asked out in 3 months. All of a sudden now she's getting bombarded by at least 50 a day. Okay, that's a huge ego boost. She becomes way pickier and more selective than she otherwise would have been, and she's only responding to the top 7%, let's say 7 to 10% of best-looking guys. The rest are going dry, not getting responses. They think it's a numbers game, so they accelerate the bombardment, and the girls, it gets to their head, and now you start to see it offline where girls avoid eye contact if you're not in the top 10% of best looking guys. Then down the road, the women, are all choosing the same guys, and then wonder, you think that they're players. They figure out, I'm dating a player. Well, geez, I mean, you're all responding to the same guys. So you're creating a complete unfairness. The guys are starting to resent it. They're starting to wake up. And, but yet, we're supposed to empathize, when you get older and it's not fair that we go after younger women. Well, you didn't care that it wasn't fair that we didn't get responded to online dating. And when we, approach you offline, you like to shoot us down and seem to get off on it. So, I'll go into my story of going overseas, and for the first time in my life, I got to be a player at age 43, and I'll go into that if when you're ready.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll go into that shortly because we'll focus this on the overseas thing. I want to say that that's the kind of the situation with me too, is that basically you go on POF, you put your picture and your profile on there, and you wait for people to respond, or women, and they don't respond, so you bombard them with 50 to 100 emails. They don't respond. Then you change up the ad a little bit and you put a fake picture on there, and my God, you will get responses, but even that's minimal. And so I had to in the past literally resort to getting girls to meet me in person, and then they would say, I did a video on this, or an audio file on this. Girls, if they don't care about what you look like when they meet you, they will not usually say, oh, well, you don't look like the guy in the picture. If they say that, that's one red flag that they're saying, I don't think you're attractive. But if they don't, if they ignore it, there's a good chance you're going to get laid that night. I mean, I've had it happen, but again, it's very rare that you get that lucky because these women are so friggin' picky. They're getting bombarded with, like mega blasted with emails that they just really don't have to choose you.
Yeah, and a lot of guys think that, they're alone. Oh, it must be something wrong with them. And of course you're not supposed to be negative, right? Because then it's you. But the bottom line is that I have good-looking friends that have noticed this after I pointed it out and validated it with their experience. And, it's the women have, it gets to their head. And my brother thinks it's human nature. It would get to our heads too if we were getting bombarded. And we do become pickier when we start to look overseas because we have, it's it's like a night and day difference. Now the tables are turned, and the girls overseas are lonely. It's like, sorry, they're not all prostitutes. Sorry, they're not all looking for a green card. I mean, look at America, as Winston says. Look at all the reasons why America is so overrated. So it's not so much that all of them want a green card. Yeah, sure, it'd be nice to have a better life, but like I mentioned on the last show, on Winston's show, that, I discovered there are a lot of women that are used to the simple life, and it takes a lot less to make them happy. They don't pressure you to see how much money you can spend on them to earn a possible second date. And, it's a whole, oh my goodness, it's a whole, people wouldn't even believe my experience. I wouldn't even expect people other than my good friends to believe me and what I experienced on my 3.5-week trip to Thailand in September, October.
Okay, well, tell me about it, because let me just brief you on this thing. I did go to the Philippines, and it did not meet my expectations, but it was for different reasons. What happened with me is I already kind of had a girl that I was going to meet there in the first place, so when we met, it was kind of it was hey, you're going to be my guy. But I didn't have women just randomly hitting on me, but Winston had alluded to me that generally speaking, people in the Philippines are cliquish, but like it is still easier to meet women in the Philippines. But you went to Thailand, and I'll tell you about my story later. But tell me about Thailand. You went there, and what? Like you got a plane ticket and just went, or what happened?
What's interesting is that my dad's girlfriend ended up becoming a matchmaker, and she is a matchmaker, and I have a joint venture with her now. Anyway, so she had several women that she had already told about, and about me, and obviously she was a true story. What do you call it? Testimonial by going out with my dad. And so I had, I gave her pictures, and she showed several gals my picture, and they were very eager to meet me, some of which I corresponded on Skype before I got there and made somewhat of a connection, and before I even got there. But the bottom line is I ended up meeting 17 different girls. Okay, it was very easy for her to not only show my pictures to the girls that she knew, but to approach girls that, I described I would like to meet, a month and a half before I came. And so I had gone out with 17 different girls, okay? Let's see, 4 of them weren't my type. 2 of them had to reschedule, but the rest I dated. Okay, and I'm just going to tell you, because I have no problem telling like it is. I slept with 8 different girls, and none of them were prostitutes. Okay.
Wow, you must have felt like Hugh Hefner.
I did. That was the first time. What's interesting about that is, I'm in good shape. I lost some weight. When I was married, I did gain some weight. I got complacent, I'll admit. But what's great is that over here, I might be a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10, right? But over there, I'm like an 8.5. And so it's such a life-changing, tremendous confidence boost. And I have so many great memories. And let me tell you this. I'm just going to tell it like it is. It's the first night that I slept with each different girl that I'm going to remember the rest of my life. It's not going to be like the 3rd time I slept with any one of them. It's all the memories now that I have. I can, even though some of the divorce still lingers, just a little, not much, but I can so easily replace it when reminiscing about the recent experiences that I had. And by the way, one of the gals was 19 years old. I'm 43. And she did have a kid, just one. And she had been on a dry spell herself. And she didn't speak that great of English, but it didn't matter. Okay? And so most of the girls spoke good enough English. 3 of them actually 4 of them spoke very good English, and 2 of the 3 that I had been corresponding with on Skype, you know, it was great because we formed a bond before I got there. And I got to tell you, one of those, well, there was 2 different experiences, but just one in particular. It is so nice to share a taxi, have a girl meet you, and part of the time I stayed at a hostel, and then I got a hotel room when I thought I was going to get busy. And so one of the times, the girl, she was she came in a taxi, and then we met in front of my hostel, and then we took another taxi together over to the hotel. And we both knew what was going to happen because this is the gal I had been corresponding with over Skype, and we were talking sexual, and so I knew exactly what was going to happen. And when we're in the taxi and we're both caressing each other, smiling, knowing that within an hour we're going to be sleeping together, I mean, that is just such an amazing experience. She was petite, you know, she was 31, so she was 12 years younger than me.
Still a great age. 30, nothing wrong with 31 at all.
No, nothing wrong with 31. And she was my main girlfriend, the main one. And when I say main, that means I spent 3 nights with her. Okay? And that's it. I mean, so, you know, there was other girls. There was another gal that I spent the night with 2 of my nights in the hotel that I got. And you're not even going to believe one day, the day that I met the 19-year-old who, you know, she had been introduced to me, she came from a great distance in a taxi. Now, there was a great subway system there that's better than BART here in the Bay Area that I enjoyed. And there's always, you know, beautiful, thin, sweet, petite girls on it, it seemed. And anytime you ask for directions, they're glad to give you directions. And for me, even though, you know, it gave me the confidence to ask for phone numbers quickly. And it would be like, can you tell me where this is? Oh, yeah, they're so helpful. Oh, by the way, my name is Steve, you know, blah, blah, blah. Can I get your phone number? Oh, sure. Compare that to America. I mean, there was a gal that I met on my last week, okay, close to my hostel that I happened to be staying at most of that week. And I was eating food cart food. Didn't get sick once. I ate food cart food on average 3 times a day, sometimes 4, even when I wasn't hungry because the food was so good and so cheap. Pad Thai for $1, etc. So I would go down around the corner, a few blocks from the hostel, where there was a ton of food cart. There'd be a girl on her way to work. She'd be getting breakfast, and there was this girl that was young. She was an 8.5. She was probably better than most of the girls that I ended up meeting. And I got her number. She went to work. You know, I didn't, you know, obviously I was on vacation, so I was just hanging out, and I texted her, and she got back to me 45 minutes later, and I asked her if she can do something, you know, either that night or the next night, and she said, you know what, I can't until the weekend, you know, can we go out on the weekend? And I said, I'm going back on Thursday. So bottom line is I didn't get a chance to date her, but it was that easy. I mean, she would have been way out of my league if she was Americanized. I would have had no chance with this girl.
You know what kind of, you know, Steve, let me interject here. I tell you, the only thing that bothers me is you're getting, my heart's all palpitating now because I didn't experience this in the Philippines for different reasons. Thailand, I've heard, is a much better place, but I mean, you're saying that if you wanted to get laid that night, or let's say within a couple of days, you're telling me you could be in bed with an attractive woman?
Well, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you could court an attractive woman.
Right.
And I'm guessing that particular example would have been a girl that I could have dated on the weekend. She lived with her dad. She lived with her dad, and she lived about a half hour outside of Bangkok. Okay, so, you know, she was accessible by the train, you know, one of the last stops, I believe. But the bottom line is she did want to date me that weekend. She couldn't, you know, because she was working. She was busy. She probably had to get home and do whatever. But, you know, the bottom line is that, you know, had I lived there or been there longer, you know, you could have,
you wouldn't have, let's put it this way, you wouldn't have been putting up with all the drama.
Right, but not only that, though, Steve, is that the fact is that not only did she give me her number pretty quickly, here she is sitting across from me eating her meal that she bought. I'm eating my meal. And here I am talking to her. She's asking serious questions, fact-finding questions about, how long I'm going to be there. Do I plan on coming back? That kind of thing. So I knew she was interested. But the fact is she gave me her real number, and she texted me back within 45 minutes. A girl at 8.5 here in America that looked like her, that young, that pretty, I would have had no chance of even getting a real number, let alone her responding to me and wanting to date me, even though I had to go back. But she wanted to. And so, but here, getting back to the 19-year-old that I dated, this is going to be hard to believe, but this is amazing. Okay, the matchmaker, my dad's girlfriend Joy, all right, had, introduced us and had corresponded with her older sister as well. Okay, because the 19-year-old gal didn't, her name was Nan. It was Nan. Anyway, she didn't speak very good English, okay? But that didn't seem to be a problem, because when I met her, she was cute. She was smiling the whole time, very sweet, which is a big bonus for me, which is hard to find here in America. And what's amazing about it is she was in her taxi. I don't know how much they spent, but it turns out her older sister spoke better English, so she called me on the phone and said, my sister's on her way. And I had other dates that day, actually, later that night. And so I didn't even know if she was ever going to come, because, it was when I called her on the phone, there was, miscommunication, and that's why her sister ended up calling. No, she's on her way. She's on her way. Well, it took her about 2.5 hours in the taxi, so I don't know how much they spent. But the bottom line is her older sister that called me happens to have a Western boyfriend, so probably wanted her younger sister to have a similar experience. And so, I don't know all the circumstances, but the bottom line is, and this is going to be hard to believe, I ended up sleeping with her within a half hour of meeting her. I'm sorry. I can't help but laugh. But,
well, you know what? It sounds good. If this keeps up, if this trend catches on, it's going to be like there's gold in them there hills. These politicians are going to probably pass laws. They've already passed the IMBRA, the International Marriage Broker Agency Act or whatever. I don't know if that'll happen. There's one country, Cambodia, I think they made a law that if you're over 50, you can't marry a woman. But let's not even get into that, because that's a different country. God, my God, you're telling me that you slept with the woman that you met just for after?
Yeah, because she arrived in the taxi and she called me and said, I'm in front of your hotel. So, what are you going to do at that point? So I bring her up to my hotel. Okay, she calls her dad. Believe it or not, she calls her dad probably to tell him that she's safe. But obviously her dad knew about this date. Okay, didn't seem to mind it. And it was almost as if they were congratulating each other. It was almost like her dad, I don't know this to be, certain, because I didn't know exactly what they said, but it was almost like a high five, like, good job to his daughter. It was unreal, because they obviously had seen my pictures, because Matchmaker had emailed her my pictures. But oh my goodness. It was like she got her dad's blessing to actually, I don't know if her dad knew that she was in my hotel or not, but he knew that we were together, that we were together on a date.
Right, but here's my question. You kind of had this prearranged, because you just don't go to Thailand, start chatting women on the street and expect them to be in the hotel and screw you that day.
Right, that's true. Because, unless, but here's the thing. Most guys think that because of the duration of their trip, that their only choice is prostitutes. That's what they think.
Right.
Okay, and they exaggerate. There might be not even 10% of the Thailand women are prostitutes. I'm guessing more like 5. So everybody blows it out of proportion. But let me tell you, where I was in the financial area, downtown Bangkok, I was there for the better part of 3 weeks. There's girls on their way to work, all dressed up, all over the place. And let me tell you something. Even though many of them had smartphones, which amazed me how many had smartphones, they weren't absorbed with their smartphones. In other words, they didn't have their earphones on, and they weren't sitting there typing on them every second like the girls in American
women. Yeah, I tell you something. I've just gotten so disgusted. Honestly, this is going off on a different tangent here, but for guys that are sitting home alone on a Friday night, would you ever think that maybe in this country they're just not angling the question right, or do you think guys should be going to the clubs or boycotting them altogether? Because I can tell you, I'm flat out boycotting the clubs. I don't even drink anymore, and maybe the international way is the only way to go, because it seems like every time I've tried to play the old saying that it's the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, hoping that you'll get different results. I think that's pretty much what happens when guys go out to clubs here in the States.
Absolutely. But really, I'm not to get back on this subject, but online dating is a far worse scenario. I mean, it's like 1,000 to 1. I mean, if you really look at it, and so it's way worse ratio than a club. But yeah, of course, a club is a waste of time and money. Absolutely, it is. So what are you left to do? You got to hit on girls during the daytime, right? Some of us have figured that out long ago here in America. The problem is getting up to bat is tough, especially when girls are avoiding eye contact now because they're tired of getting hit on. And they want to show you their power, too. They want to show you their power. And, it's ridiculous. I mean, I do get, looked at every now and then, but it seems like when I tune them out where, I'm on the phone or I have my earphones on and they know I don't have my radar on, I can see girls, look at me. But when I go to do something about it, it's not about that I don't have good game or whatever. The fact is some of them enjoy shooting you down.
Right.
Humans.
Oh, that's a good point there.
Yeah, I mean, they're human, so they might find you attractive. But when you go and you initiate things and try and get their number, some of them just far too many just enjoy the ego boost and enjoy shooting you down. And it's like, just before I went on my trip, there was an Asian gal that was out and about, and I was on my bike, okay? And I was just, this was like on a Saturday. And she was at a light, and I start talking to her. She says she's a nurse, and I'm like, actually really having good conversation. And I mentioned something about smartphones. Oh, do you have this mobile app? It's cool, this and that. And she just had to show me that she was better than me and completely shot me down. And I was like, oh, my goodness. I had no more tolerance left. Thank goodness I was about to go to Thailand, but I pretty much was just finished. I was so frustrated, Steve. I was just so done with getting shot down, wasting my time, even during the daytime, where the odds are greater. It's like, forget it. So I am doing a joint venture with my dad's girlfriend. And not only that, one of the girls that I dated, I'm still contacting. I'm still in touch with her. She's really cared about me. She's sweet, and she's going to be a matchmaker for us as well. And she's like, my brother's getting ready to go in January to and experience exactly what I did. And she's already, talking to girls, the girl that I dated, in addition to my dad's girlfriend, Joy. They're already, they've got his pictures, and they're already showing Thai girls that, this guy's coming and he's a good guy, and it's easy for them. As matchmakers, it's easy to show a Western guy's photo and say he's coming next month, and he's going to have the time of his life. And, we talk about this all the time, and it's like going back in time and doing it all over again. Going back, many of us have fantasized about that. If we can only go back with our wisdom and do it all over. Well, that's exactly what we're doing, Steve. And even back in high school, I wasn't a player. I've never dated more than 2 people at a time, almost never more than 1. And let me tell you, when you date this many people, and you get that feeling, this is the way it's supposed to be. I'm not saying that you should sleep with, 8 girls in 1 month like I was lucky enough to do, but you should be able to date several girls at once. You should be able to you can choose who's compatible. But what happens, Steve, is that everyone goes on a dry spell now, the 90% of guys, and they commit to the first person that comes their way. And that person may not be right for you, but you're so desperate that you put this whoever this is on a pedestal, and of course you have to please her, whereas overseas it's just the opposite way. Girls want to please you, and they don't put pressure to spend all this money on them. Let me tell you, man, that's
well. I will let me interject here. In the Philippines, it's a little bit different. The girls do have this expectation. See, Winston pointed something out that only a person that's been in the Philippines can understand, like myself, is that in the Philippines, the type of women that you date are like peasant girls. You're not going to find a middle class Filipino. Now, in Thailand, it's maybe totally different, and I agree, because you're talking about classy girls that are dressed up in nice suits and ties or nice dresses that are talking on cell phones. You're probably indifferent in Thailand, but not everybody's overseas experience is going to be the same depending on where they go.
Sure. But let me tell you this, though. I was corresponding with a girl in the Philippines the year before for the better part of a year, and she was so sweet and submissive. And just caring and just simple life. She was so used to the simple life that I would see her on Skype smile. It was so easy to make her smile and make her happy. And I remember seeing her at work. It's like this look on her face. She was proud that she was, had this Western boyfriend, and apparently some of her coworkers were jealous of her, and I told her, hey, don't rub it into them. But you could see at work, she would show me sometimes on Skype when she was at work, and you see like this proud look on her face and this happy expressions, and it's just I couldn't get over there and meet her, so it came to an end because her friend told her, hey, see, he's not serious, because I couldn't, I was too busy, and financially I couldn't really afford it. But I remember asking her, how long do you want me to stay with you? She had a good job as a court reporter. Now, this is an exception, don't get me wrong, this is an exception, all right? But the fact is that this particular gal had a good job. She did have a kid, so in her mind it was hard to find a man, but she was beautiful and petite and I mean just so eager to please. But when I asked, how long do you want me to stay with you, she truly meant this at the time, forever. She actually wanted me to come live with her for as long as I'd be willing to. And she was a great gal, and she was in Cagayan de Oro. Okay, so
Cagayan de Oro, yeah, that's where I met the girl I met at Cagayan de Oro.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a nice area. I visited some really good places there. But anyways, yeah, that's unbelievable. So I don't know what else to say other than the fact I kind of want to go back to the Philippines to do things a little bit differently. But you're telling me now about Thailand. It sounds like it's a sexual paradise. But honestly, did you wear protection, or are you worried about having a kid with?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I wore protection. I knew that I was increasing the odds. Now from my understanding, none of these girls were prostitutes, and I didn't have to spend a dime on any one of them. Okay, so
right.
So. Now, could one of them had been a former prostitute for all I know? Possibly. But I mean, none of them expected me to spend any money on them. And like the 19-year-old, for example, after we slept together, okay, that day, we went where I knew there was food cart food in the area right on the river, okay, really romantic spot where we were. And I bought her, pad thai and for $1, and she's happy, okay? So to be able to buy her a nice, tasty meal a healthy meal for $1 and myself for $1, I spent $2 on her in our date. And I wasn't obligated to, and it was after we had sex. I mean, right. That's an eye-opener. Just think about that for a second, Steve. A 19-year-old, okay, that I spent $2 after we slept together, and I wasn't obligated. It was like, are you hungry? Oh,
right.
Sure. Okay, let's go get something to eat. I mean,
the only Steve, let me say this though. We have to be realistic here about this. Now, I know this is helping promote the idea of Winston's site, but not every guy has the opportunity to go overseas. Do you believe that dating in America is ever doable, or is the game just over with? My instincts tell me that it's a far cry to even think that you can somehow get yourself successful in dating at all. I mean, what is your opinion on it? Are you just totally done with American dating?
I'm pretty much done with it. I mean, I'll put a little bit of effort, but knowing how little effort it takes to get results overseas. I mean, my mom will tell me, and she's right, although she doesn't have no idea what's really happening in the single scene for men, but she'll say, all it takes is one, Steve. All it takes is one. But what she really means is that, I'm supposed to wait around until, one comes, well, not necessarily wait around, but I mean, when that one comes your way. But think about what she's saying. All it takes is one. Sure. But again, getting back to what I said, if you've been on a dry spell, that first person that comes along is what you're going to overvalue most likely. Okay, and you're going to cling to that girl, and it may not be, the best of what you could get and maybe what you deserve. But if you can't get up to bat here in America very often at all, I mean, I talk to guys all the time that are attractive guys going on 2-3 year dry spells. My very good-looking good friend, he got lucky. He found somebody from another state who moved and didn't know anyone, and they're dating like, twice a week. But he told me if I had not met her, and he goes, I'm lucky, I'd be on a 2-year dry spell right now. And that's ridiculous because he's always been known to be a very good-looking guy. But, he's probably in the top 15% of best-looking guys, but not in that top 10. Not in that top 10.
But I mean, like, from a sociological perspective, the only thing that I can draw, now me and you are both what are called baby boomers. We were born between 65 and 80 or 81, about a 16-year span. I had heard a woman say that what caused this dry spell with the dating scene, and this was like 8-10 years ago, this woman's name, I forget what her name was, Sherry Cooper. I had this, it was an NPR special. She said what dried up the dating scene, or what will dry it up in 10 years, and she was right on the money, is that all these baby boomer guys divorced their wives and married these attractive young girls, which in our age group were going to marry up the scale, and it dried out the dating pool. I don't know if you think that had something to do with it, but it seems like it's impossible. I could walk up to 30-40 women tonight and run game and talk to them, and I don't think that I would have a chance in hell of getting anywhere with them. That's why I stay home on a Friday night, because I realize that the game is so rigged against guys. I mean, what do you think? You think if you went out and talked to 40 women tonight, or that'd be hard to do, let's say 10 women, do you think you could get some more?
Well, here's the thing. I can't stand wasting nights anymore. I can't stand it. The good thing is that I now know that there's overseas waiting for me. I've got girls waiting for me from the matchmaking service. And by the way, I linked to some, like one of the girls that I dated is on our Twitter page. So if you wanted, you can go to twitter.com/matchmakerradio. Okay, and from Matchmaker Radio, there's a link to one of the girls that I dated, and she was actually taking me around, showing me around in her car, and which was great. I mean, that's a fun experience, and we were having a good time. But getting back to your question, there's many factors. I think the biggest one is online dating has ruined it. I think what you said is also part of it. Women are, now, of course, more empowered. They don't need to rely on men. Are you still with me?
Yes, I had you on mute. I didn't want to have any feedback, but yeah, I'm hearing you loud and clear. So keep going.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors going on. There's a lot of guys, especially in Northern California, that have migrated from all over the world that have thrown the ratio off. It's worse on the West Coast in terms of ratios. I do know that. I'm not saying that the women, but it's always been about ratio, at least from my point of view. In Silicon Valley, closer to San Jose, there'll be a group of girls that would never even give me the time of day or acknowledge that I exist. But in San Francisco, in the right pocket area, where they know there's more women, you see their attitude difference. They're not as stuck up. I'm telling you, it's always been about ratios.
Yeah, it's about ratio, but I disagree. San Francisco is a sausage party too, from what I understand. That it's not all these.
It's pockets.
Go ahead.
It's pockets. There are good pockets, like on Union Square. If you hit that right, there's a lot of foreign tourists that make the ratio look good. So you might get a commuting that might be single from 2 hours away, and in Union Square she sees a ton of girls, many of which are from overseas on vacation, and it makes the ratio look not so great for her. And if you hit it right, but that's an exception. Most of the pockets are a sausage fest. You're right, but that also partially explains it. But believe me, online dating is what ruins it. Guys don't understand what they're doing. Like you said earlier, they don't get responses, so they step on the gas and bombard even more.
That's because I've done it. That's why I understand it.
Yes, I've done it before. And it's human nature to get your ego boosted and to think you're better than you are and to be way pickier and more selective than you otherwise would be. That's the biggest problem, but there are several.
Yeah, there are several, and it gets me discouraged. And the reason I'm kind of discouraged because Steve, is that I look at it as I can't just get on a plane tomorrow and go to Thailand. So I have to look at the situation that I know Winston promotes this site as being don't worry about American women, but I'm trying to find out, is there an angle that we don't know about that we could make it? But I'm thinking that the ratio factor is huge against us, because it's like you go to the grocery store and it's like even the cashier doesn't look at you. I mean, they like look in a different direction when it's weird. They don't smile at you or anything.
Yes, they don't. They don't. And the only time you see that they do, at least for me, is if I'm on the phone and they know my radar's off. Like there was one time in San Francisco, okay, close to Union Square on Market Street. It was a Starbucks. I was in the Starbucks, and it's just like you said. There was this Asian girl that I found attractive, but she was next to the window, and I was like in her, kind of at an angle across the way where she could have seen me, but I didn't exist. She didn't look at me once, okay? But guess what? When I had a phone call, I walked outside and I was at the phone, and so from her point of view, I had my radar off and I tuned her out, and as she walked by, she stared at me like for, 3 seconds, and it was like unbelievable. So you can, if they know that your radar's off and that you're not on the prowl, and they know that they're not threatened, they're human. They might look at you. But if you go chase after them or you try and get their number, I mean, you rarely get their number. So
well, how about that? How about this? I know this is hypothetical, but let's say you're sitting at a Starbucks and let's say your phone goes off, or let's say you make it go off like with a ringer or whatever, and you pretend like you're saying, "Oh, lovey-dovey this, lovey-dovey that." Do you think that would, if a woman was sitting by you, that would change their idea of you? In other words, now you become desirable?
A little bit, and in some cases, yeah. Some cases,
in more cases, no. I would say no, because they have so many options.
Yeah, but you think about it, though. You're right. They know they have so many options, so they want a challenge. I mean, they want somebody that's not so easy to get. And the problem is, Steve, is that in online dating, all the guys start to look the same. Pretty soon, even the good-looking guys, they all look needy and desperate. So the only good thing about it is once the girl has gotten her ego boost, and some are addicted to it for far too long, but once they've done this, and all the guys start looking the same, desperate, needy, it's like they really prefer to meet somebody out and about. Believe me on that. That's the only good thing. But still, they become tainted. They become way pickier now, and their standards are way higher. So they're still tainted. Yeah.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question. This was I had done this interview back in 2009, which is the reason I want to start, revamping all these Roller Steve Show interviews with newer stuff. But one guy told me something interesting, and this is a good perspective on it. He said, I says, well, why does it always seem that every time you go out, you always see a guy with a girl, a guy with a girl? And he says, because you don't pay attention to all the guys that are by themselves, because you only see the guy with the girl. Now, I don't know if you agree with that, but when I have gone out by myself to the bar or to the coffee house or on my own, maybe shopping, is it realistic to say that there are guys with the same intentions as me that want to find somebody and that they're all by themselves, or is it just me? I mean, sometimes I really think maybe I am the one who's got the problem. Did you ever go through that in your head?
Oh, no, everybody's in the same boat. 90% of the single guys, especially if they're in the suburbs, what you have to understand is if you're a single guy and you're looking to, increase your dates, you better get out of the suburbs. Okay.
Right. Why is the suburb
get up to bat? Okay. And here's another thing, really quick, is that in San Francisco you'll see tourists, and I see mismatches all the time, especially like from Europe. You'll see a beautiful girl with a very ugly guy, and you like they can't be from America. Sure enough, you hear their accent, and they're not. I mean, I see way more mismatches, and what does that tell us? It tells us the girls aren't as picky overseas. They're not.
And that's a fact. And that's a fact that a lot of guys are waking up to. And so,
yeah, but I mean, is it realistic? Let me ask this question, though. But the fact of the matter, Steve, remains that there are still guys out there dating girls and getting laid. And so how do we know that the person that's with the girl isn't just a one-time date? I mean, does it really matter to know, or do we just instinctively know that something's screwed up here? Because what I'm trying to get at is, and we'll talk about the international dating in a minute, I'm trying to figure out, am I wasting my time sitting home like tonight on a Saturday night, or should I be out there just talking to those sluts and just having a good time and pretending like I'm getting somewhere? I'm thinking my time would be a waste of time, but what do you think?
You'd be better to save that effort for the daytime. And make sure that you go to a lot of different places outside of the suburbs during the day and make it a routine to increase your odds. But you have to be the kind of guy, though, that in the line of a grocery store where you talk to everyone, okay? I mean, because you got to, I mean, when opportunities do present themselves, usually you're not going to be ready for it. The other day it happened to me in the grocery store, and, you know, I wasn't ready for it, and you better act within 10 seconds, because if you go chase after the girl, you're not going to do it, and it's not going to work. So it's not so much about game, it's that you have to be always ready. But you don't get up to bat very often, and
right. Oh, for sure, you don't. I mean, like, what's weird is, I'll get onto this question about the suburbs, but yeah, what's weird is you go out in public, and in my impression with women is this, and I know this because I'm 42 now, but when I was 22. When a girl likes you, she moves her body into you. She moves like within two inches from your face. But if a girl doesn't like you, she won't even go into your proximity. Like, for example, if you're walking down the grocery aisles, if the girl likes you, she will make it go out of her way to bump into you. Whereas if she doesn't find you attractive, it'll mysteriously be weird. You'll be following, trying to get near her, and every time you go toward her, she's like always in a different aisle. So there's something kind of telling you in advance that, hey, get the hell away from me. That's what I've experienced. Now, question to you. What is wrong with the suburbs, damn it? I mean, I live in the suburbs. What's wrong with it?
Oh, well, most of the girls are taken. You know, like I told my brother, when he recently went through a divorce, he lives in Las Vegas. He was in Henderson, deep into the suburbs, and we just had a conversation about this today. He thanked me. He said, thanks for consisting that when I move out, I find a place close to the strip where, you know, at any moment within a mile, I can go on a routine and go to this casino little lounge or this place or that place where there's going to be way more single women. In the suburbs, they're married, man. It's just that simple. They're taken. And, I mean, just look around. Look in the grocery store. All the girls you see have rings on. And so, I mean, this is the problem with America, okay? They're either too taken, they're too fat, they're too good, or they're too young. Okay? It's usually, and if you're in the suburbs, it's a combination of all of them when you're in the suburbs. They're too taken.
It is. Well, yeah, it is. It's depressing because I'm not drinking beer anymore. But like if I was at home and I was drinking at home on a Friday night, I never really drink and drive. That was always a big thing with me. I would avoid that stuff. But let's say I was watching movies, I was getting a little buzzed. You'd be thinking as the buzz is coming down and you're getting a little bit lonely, you're thinking, why didn't I just go out there and talk to women? But then I thought, you know what difference would it have made? Because I've already done that in the past. It's the same crap, and but I noticed something else that Winston talks about, and I don't know if you'll agree with this. People are very cliquish too. Have you noticed that in America, it seems like if you see a group of guys and girls together, it's because they've already formed a prefabbed clique. And if you walk out in your house, even if you're decent, unless you're really good looking, but if you're average to slightly better than average looking, you're not going to get in that clique because you're not part of it. It's just like it doesn't happen.
Well, then, if you're married, you better keep in touch with your friends because, I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to get divorced, and you better have a prenup, first of all, okay? And if somebody says, how dare you ask me to have a prenup, you better not marry her because, I mean, getting married in America with America woman, with the laws, oh my goodness, my brother is getting screwed. This girl never worked. He was married for 14 years as well. which is quite a coincidence, almost the same amount of time as me. My ex was a contributor. She made a lot of money. His ex has the laws like you can't imagine on her side. So if any advice that people need to know is that, if you're going to get married, which you really shouldn't in America, to an American girl, you better have a prenup. Because it's like, it's just a matter of when it's going to end badly. And let me tell you, when you find this out the hard way, the laws do not care about the guy, okay? His rights don't matter. He has very little. And the woman pretty much gets everything. The inflated child support, my brother was complaining about that the other day. It's close to 20%. He's like, shouldn't it be about, the food and clothing, not about a percentage of what I earned last year? I mean, give me a break. Plus alimony, and she gets half of everything he earned. And we did a recorded interview where he was venting, and he was basically saying because of her, he was pressured to buy a house at the peak, and he knew it was the peak. Oh, but we can't. What would our neighbors, what would our friends think if we rented? We have to buy a house. So he has all this resentment. Now he can't stand her because, she contributed to putting stupid pressure on him that made him do financial moves that cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. And so now what's interesting is he's going to go on that Thailand trip. He's probably going to marry a girl that the matchmaker is going to set up for him if he finds the right one, and he's going to have many choices. And if he does find the right one, he's going to bring her back here with the prenup, okay? And he's going to make sure that she wants to work. So there are many jobs in Vegas where good looks can earn you a lot of money. How's that for turning the tables? He's an outside-the-box thinker, just like you, me, and Winston.
but yeah, right. I understand that, but he's taking a risk too of bringing a woman back here, knowing that she could walk off and find somebody else.
Really? You know what his answer to that is? Fine,
yeah.
I'll get someone else.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm getting
the benefit.
Now, honestly, Steve, if you were to try to go out and say, let's say that you wanted to, you're not. It's not like everybody can just get on a plane and go to Thailand tomorrow. My question is, if you wanted to get laid and you thought, like in the next week, do you think you could find a way to meet an American woman, not one that's 400 pounds, but I mean, like, what would you do if you? Do you think it would be very hard for you to walk up to some woman and start talking to her?
Yeah. Oh, you mean and get laid out of it? Oh, the odds of that are like 2%. No.
Oh yeah.
No. The next week, no. And what a lot of guys are doing is they're just gotten used to it. They've just given up. They're on a 4-year dry spell, and they either watch porn or they go on Redbook and hire a prostitute. No thanks, man. I don't want limitations. I'm not going to kiss a prostitute. I have no desire. When I went to Thailand, I didn't have to. Okay? Right. I mean, I didn't have time to even think about it, let alone why would I want to pay a prostitute when all these girls that I'm dating I can kiss? I don't have limitations when getting physical. So, it was a great life-changing experience. It was like going back in time for me. And my dad, you wouldn't even believe how many girls, he can't even count but he's told me, he'd give me a ballpark of how many girls he slept with in the 5 years that he's been there half the time. So the equivalent of about 2.5 straight years. When you live there, oh my goodness, are you ever in high demand? If you're a Westerner, you live there, oh my goodness. But I know it's not just Thailand. Okay, I mean, you mentioned your experience in the Philippines. I mean, I can't.
It's a little bit different to see the Filipino women don't like to sleep around because they're Catholic. Okay, now you can find prostitutes, but I don't go that route. And one guy tried to coerce me into that whole prostitute thing. I'm just not attracted to prostitutes. There's something about them. There's nothing that I physically find attractive about them.
Right.
And they're very and it's so. Anyways, my whole thing is, I know this is our first interview, so it's kind of like I'm all over the map here with you. I didn't know we didn't really rehearse anything, but I guess I'm saying that guys really have no hope in America as far as making dating work for them. Is it really a hopeless thing?
It's hopeless if you want to have choices. dates and a variety of dates. You know, I mean, you know, it depends on how you define hopeless. I mean, if you want to do what would be normal and used to be normal in America and is normal for guys overseas, okay, is that they get choices. They get to date several people and then decide who's best for them. In America, you don't get that choice. That's hopeless. But if you want to wait for 3 months or maybe even 2 years until you finally date somebody, well, you got to pretty much take what you can get. And if you're lucky, she might be, you know, a 7 and not heavy. But like I said, they're either too good, too taken, too heavy, or too young in America.
Right. Well, that's a good point there. I'm trying to. I guess what you're doing is you're encouraging people. Now, what did it what overall does it cost to go to a place like Thailand? Okay, let's say you do the homework, you hook up with some women online, you talk to them. What are you looking at in terms of airfare and cost to be there? Let's say a month or so.
Well, the airfare is about $1,000 round trip. Okay. You can eat incredibly cheap. I mean, if you wanted, you could eat for $3 to $4 a day and eat good and tasty food. And by the way, and not pay sales tax. I think that's a value added already built into it. But you don't pay sales tax. I got to tell you, that put a smile on my face as well. I can't. I mean, the more I think about it, sales tax bothers the heck out of me here in America, as does, you know, so many other things. The police state, we can go on and on. Okay, but America. Let me just say this right here: America is way overrated. Okay?
Oh God, yeah. You know, another thing, somebody posted on Winston's forum. There was 10 things that this guy mentioned, and I don't know if it was you or not, but one of the things he mentioned was, he goes, people in foreign countries don't think about us as much as we think they about us. They just carry on their lives like if you're an American and you go overseas, it's not like everybody gives a shit. You know, I know in a dating it might be different. What?
Yeah, they shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what it boils down to, because, I think, you know, one of my interviewees that I never really posted up, he said to me one time, he says, America is like a sexual prison. It's a sexual prison. No, it's a sexual. It is, because they feed you all this sexual stimuli, but you're not allowed to have it if you're a guy.
Yeah. Guys, no longer have any power in the dating scene. I mean, they're desperate, and you got to cater to the women that have far too much power now, and they know it, and that's why they want the secret to get out. They don't want anything to threaten that power. So the first thing they're going to say is they're going to try and shut you up by saying, "Oh yeah, they just want your green card. They just want your money overseas." Bullshit. There's a ton of girls that are lonely. Okay, I proved this. I proved it. There are a lot of lonely girls overseas. Okay, just like the lonely guys. It's almost exactly the situation reversed.
But Joseph Biden will, that politician Joseph Biden will probably pass some law like he did with the Violence Against Women Act.
Unbelievable. Well, you know, I'm telling you, it's like my brother. He's like, as soon as his son is 18, he's leaving the country. He's like, he's not going to miss anything here. I mean, he's done it all. You know, he had a lot of entertainment in Vegas, and he's just like, you know, only thing that's keeping me here is my son. Otherwise, I'd be in Thailand right now, is what he said.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So you went over there, and then what's your plans? Are you going back?
Yes, as soon as I can.
Okay, but
just
in the
meantime, I'm a partner. I'm a partner in this overseas matchmaking venture now. So,
but are you making money?
One of the girls that I'm dating, and my brother is a financial backer. So we are gonna, we want others to be able to have this life-changing experience, and we put everything in place to make that happen. Because you're not going to go there and have anywhere near the experience that I did and my brother will have, unless you live there. Now, if you live there, you don't need a service if you live there. But if you're going there for a life-changing trip once a year, then you'd be wise to be able to have somebody point out your strengths and find the right kind of girls that aren't prostitutes, that have a favorable first impression of you. And, it just saves you a lot of time. I mean, if you want to have 17 dates, that's what we're going to provide.
Okay, now what are you making? Are you making any money off this already?
Well, remember, I'm not doing it for the money, so we haven't really set a price for the service. But let's put it this way: we're going to be able to deliver
like you can't imagine. My dad living there, his girlfriend speaking Thai, and already setting up girls with me, for me and my brother in January. I mean, it's easy for her to do this. And one of the girls that I'm dating, Naylin, she's going to work with her, and the two of them, are going to have no problem finding dates for clients. As long as it helps them if they have a picture, which our clients provide obviously pictures and descriptions.
Right. I probably would be the type to use your service. I might consider it because again, it's like being at home on a Friday night and a Saturday night, and let's face it, most people listening to this are in this situation. Now, I'll probably get some hate mail here and there for these interviews, but let's face the fact, most guys are living this life, and unless you're part of a clique, and even if you're part of a clique, there's no guarantee that your girl's not giving you a bunch of crap too. It's either way, you're kind of in this situation.
Well, give me a link to this interview, and I'll put it up on the Twitter page that you'll be able to find where the service is. Okay, so it's twitter.com/matchmaker radio. When you provide me the link to this interview, I'll put it up there. But
okay,
that's
great.
how you'll be able to keep posted about the service. So.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to reach me at my email address, I've got actually two of them. This is the Roller Steve Show. You can probably the best place to hit me at is Steve at stevehoca.com. That's Steve at STEVEHOCA or Steve at stevehoca.com. That's how it is. I have that. That's the best one. I'm gonna unless I change this around at some point. That's going to be my main email address. And then they can comment. If you want to do an interview with me, you can do that, and we can talk in advance. We kind of did this off the cuff, Steve, and so we were kind of in a hurry. So I'm sorry. I apologize for being all over the map on this. I had so many questions to ask you.
People are going to enjoy this. People need to hear this kind of thing. The truth,
right?
And it's empowering. And like I said, for me, it's like going back. For my dad, it's like the fountain of youth. I mean, I'm telling you, when I hear him on the phone, you know how guys 63 years old, they don't like to talk on the phone. He will talk in stories that you can't even believe. I mean, that you wouldn't believe the stories that he has.
Hey, Steve, Steve, like you're on Winston's site at happierabroad.com. Do you log on there regularly as far as posting?
I don't post very often there. I posted a few. But
all right, then I don't have to put your posting name. Are you going to broadcast this on Winston, or just have Winston give a link to it? I'll just put it on my site, and Winston can link it to his. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, God, here I am. I'm alone on a Friday or Saturday night, and you got me. Yeah, it stinks. Horny as hell, huh? Probably. Well, no, I'm not really. I'm not at the point where now I'm not 22 anymore. But
I released a lot of frustration on my trip. I mean, I still correspond with a few gals that are waiting for me to come back. But I'm going to have on my next trip a heck of a lot more. But the fact is, though, that I released a lot of frustration, but I don't at the same time like wasting nights, especially weekend nights. I don't like it. Time is going by. I want to make the most of my 40s. You only live your 40s once. So,
right. I'd like to see. Yeah.
Trip, and my brother's gonna in January. So.
Wow. Yeah. I'd like to. Yeah. It'd be nice to. Boy, I tell you something. It's intimidating. I don't know. I mean, there's times where I should say to myself, I tell you, if you're a lonely guy out there, I just want to say this one thing. You're sitting home or you're in your car driving around. Don't feel so bad because you're not alone. That one guy that I had interviewed, he had told me, he says, you don't know how many single guys are walking alone that you just don't know about, but people are too busy paying attention to these couples, and it's a So, Steve, how do you want me to address you? As just Steve R? Because I'll just call you by your...
That's fine. Yeah, Steve R is fine. I mean, I don't mind causing controversy. In fact, I like it like you. I like to. But as you know, this is very controversial. And some of my other business ventures I don't want it to affect. But
right, I understand that.
I'm having another interview, though. I have no problem doing another interview.
Oh, that's cool. You know what I'll probably do? We'll maybe do a three-way with your dad one time, because that would be really funny as hell.
That would be. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
If we, the stories that he's told me, oh my goodness.
God.
Some girls that he slept with were prostitutes, but I would say probably 2/3 weren't, and much younger. Many in their 20s. But he did say, by the way, the number is over 200.
Wow. Yeah, that's and you know, honestly, I mean, I can say something. It really stinks because I go like months and sometimes it seems like years. It seems when you go through these dry spells. I am so. I hate to say it, I'm pathetic in this sense. I tried a couple years ago to get back with an ex-girlfriend, and she gave me the flat-out, fuck you, don't ever call me again. And this is, by the way, I want to point something out. I don't know if you've ever had this happen. When a woman breaks up with you, she never fucking wants to hear from you ever again, and she will say it to you. And this is the reason why guys need other options, because getting back with your ex just doesn't work.
No, it's a light switch for them. Once they turn it off, you're done forever. But you know what? It's okay because, you know, overseas, they're tonight, and especially knowing that you're dating young girls. That's the last thing a girl wants to hear is that you found happiness. You're dating girls younger than them. So if they don't want to hear from you, maybe you can give them one last email and say, you know, I'm dating girls a lot younger than you now. So
you know what I'm gonna do? I still have one of my ex-girlfriend's last emails. What I'm gonna do is when I go to Thailand or wherever, I'm gonna make one of those flash portfolios. I'll link to it, and when they get the link, they can click the link and kaboom! It's gonna do the flash, like kind of like the open pages where it goes from one picture to the next, and have like 8 different women.
Hey, that's a good idea. Let me say one last thing really quick. My brother did go to Vietnam not too long ago, and I'll just say that he did good there too. I mean, he didn't do as good as me because he didn't have a matchmaker, but he did sleep with 2 girls.
That's good. He would have never done that here in the States unless, God, I tell you something. Unless, hey, if some asshole PUA wants to come on here and convince me that the United States is the greatest dating place and you just don't have game, I entertain you to email me and you know send a email to steve@stevehoca.com and feel free to tell me and we'll do an interview. I don't think anybody can prove it. I think what you're telling me has more validity than anything.
Oh yeah, the game, yeah, right. They're just trying to provide a little bit of hope, but that's probably affected too, because there's enough guys that are going out there and hitting on girls and contributing to their so that's not helping.
I think we're getting.
I mean, not that every guy's going to follow it, but they're going to practice.
Right. I'm getting some digital harassment here from Skype. I think anytime there's controversial interviews, there always seems to be people trying to block our signal. Interesting. Steve, I got to get going, okay? But Steve R., let me say this real quick. Today's date is December 22nd, 2012. It's 8:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is Ohio time. I've interviewed Steve, and Steve, I'll get the link up there, and we'll just ride with this and see where it goes, okay?
Sounds good. Good talking with you, man. Let's keep spreading the truth.
All right, you take it easy. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.